Hey, so this is probably one of the most intense or riskiest races I've actually done in a while. Most usually just end up pretty stupidly, but I was also pretty tired to begin with, so right now I'm just practicing my Kevin LePage, and it ends up getting me a black flag, so I just had to
You got the black flag.
restart doing my lap, but we're just gonna jump into my qualifying laps.
One more lap.
My first lap was done riding the high line because this is Talladega. A lot of the people who are in front of me did the low line for the first lap, and are also going to be doing the low for the second. I did the high for the first and going to be doing the low for the second. I already look like I'm going to be faster than normally, but then it kind of just levels out. But with super speedways, you usually want to ride the high line for the first lap, the low line for the second lap, because you are trying to get your speed up as much as you can. Trying to burn off any fuel as well, but it's usually just trying to get up your speed as much as you can. I could have ridden a higher line for the first lap and a lower line for the second, but all in all it was pretty okay. It's saying that I'm going to end up about 900ths above my best lap, 800ths. This ends up putting me in provisional third place, and after the race you see it ends up putting me in actual third place with only about half the field qualifying.
You have 2 additional sets of tyres for this race. Be smooth and have a good run.
So at this point I'm already checking the fuel levels, trying to just see, do we think I can make it to the end without stopping? I have done this once before this week, however it was a very chaotic race with like 8,000 cautions, so it really just depends on how many cautions this race has.
The pace car is off. Be ready.
I like to think that I can be pretty good at restarts, or even just starts in general, but let's just say this was not one of my best.
Green, green, green.
As you can see, there was a large gap in front of me, so it was enough that the car in front of me actually pulls down in and we just fall into a line. Already I'm noticing that the 13 is kind of wavy. I mean, you can look at my steering inputs, I'm not too much better, but at least I'm kind of holding a line. The 13 is going up, down, left, right, center, and I'm not taking it, so I'm going out. I see the car behind me is actually pulling as well, so I'm hoping they're going to push me, but instead they go and try to take it 3 wide. Luckily it stays 2 wide, but for a second the spotter does call it 3 wide. But that's just the start of how this race goes.
Stay high. You're up top, 3 wide. Still there.
Like, obviously aggression can be good, however, you do have to work together, especially when it is lap 1, now lap 2 out of 50, so we're 2% way through the race. Nobody is winning the race currently. There are still 49 more laps that will happen before anyone can win the race, but everybody is trying to race it like they're going to win. Not to say that I'm not doing the same exact thing. You see, I'm doing 3 wide. I could definitely lift off and pull back behind the 4, but I also don't quite know how the 22 is going to treat me, so you see they sneak through, just keeping me up top, and then I kind of just start falling back as the 1, as the 9, all of them just start pulling through.
Hold your line. Still there.
So I do start to get a run here. I'm pulling up past the 22, up along. It looks like I may catch up to the 4. I pulled down, did not even notice that the 1 was down there. Times like these that I wish I was either knew how to pay attention or had a spotter, but either way, I get through and we pull back along 2 by 2. So skipping forward a lap, I'm starting to get some momentum here again, so I'm just like, you know what, sure, I'll make it 3 wide again. This one's entirely on me, and anything that comes out of it is 100% my fault. I fully accepted that. And what happens is the 22 just sees the open window and just slides right on in, and I'm kind of just like, yeah, I kind of did that. The 9 as well kind of starts looking inside, but I can't quite tell if they're gonna let me down, what's gonna happen there. Obviously there's no room right now, but I don't know what's gonna go on, so I kind of just pull down stupidly and end up having to let them through. We do kind of tap a little bit, 100% my fault, but the 5 just pulls through, just out of nowhere, and is just, I don't even know what's going on at this point.
48.001, still inside, 2 wide.
I end up just tucking behind the 5, and then we end up just going 2 by 2. The 9's a bit behind me, so they're definitely going to get a run that's going to attack probably soon, but I do end up going a bit wide through turns 3 and 4. Definitely should have held it down closer to the line, but what are you going to do?
Still there, inside.
So here I set to get another run on the 5 car, and if I was smart, I would have just tapped the 5 car, you know, pushed this turn up. If I was smart. Instead, I'm just going to take this momentum, and I'm just going to go towards the outside, making it 3 wide again. Fully my fault. The 5 taps the 22. I get a little scared there that something bad's going to happen, but instead I just tap the wall. Luckily it's just a 0x, I don't affect anyone else really, but I do fall back quite a good bit, and I almost tapped that 15 car. Again, that would have been my fault, but I just try to get any semblance of slipstream, and I just figure we're just gonna pull back in. As long as we don't lose them, we're fine. It doesn't matter if we're at the front of the pack or if we're at the back of the pack. As long as we're in the pack, we can, we'll survive, unless we get hit.
Still there, hold your line, still inside, still there.
So as you see, we're back up right behind the 22. We did pass the 5, it wasn't much, they just left the window open, we just kind of snuck through. Wasn't much of a sneak, they kind of just opened it wide open, but anyway, we're just holding behind the 22, and we're just kind of hoping nothing bad happens. We do see that car well up ahead, that's going to cause a little bit of chaos. The 22 goes wide. I think about going in the window, you see that, but the 22 kind of closed that off, rightly so, so I just fall back. The lapped car goes down fully on the apron. The 22 ends up going wide, letting me through, so I kind of just end up into the top 5 again. I hope that the 22's gonna try pushing me through, but nothing really much happens. Just they didn't have the momentum I had, so nothing could have happened really. So I just end up falling right up behind the 1 car again. The 5 car is pulling up right alongside me, and we're pretty much right where we were before. Nothing ever happens.
Still there. Clear, car inside. Stay high, there's a car on the low side. Car inside, you're up top, 3 wide.
I end up going a bit wide here, which just lets the 9 car just right through. So I just end up going up behind them. They're feeling a little shaky, the 5's still been a bit shaky, so I don't quite know how I feel about being behind them or really in front of them. So I go alongside them. So I'm alongside the 9, the 5 just shakes up into the 3rd row again. So I kind of get pinched up there, but that's again my fault. But they're 3 wide in front of me, which there's 3.5, 4 lanes, so it's fine, but they're going 3 wide a bit. Looks like the 5's going to try to make it 4 wide
Clear
again,
inside. Car
but
inside.
it's just,
Still
I don't quite know
inside.
what to do
Still there.
here. The 5's just been pinched on the outside. I'm behind the 13, so the 5's are slowly going to fall back because nobody's
Still
behind
there.
them to be able to push
Clear
them
inside.
forward.
2 wide.
So I'm
Car
just going to be
inside.
staying behind the 13, just hoping I can
Stay
find
high.
something. The 9 goes out, so I'm just
Still there
hoping
at bottom.
something
You're in
good
the
can
middle.
happen.
3 wide.
There's lap
Still
traffic
there.
ahead, so
Still
nothing
there.
good will ever happen. The lap traffic
Right
goes
side.
high,
2
which means the
wide.
9 has to tuck in, else they're going to be hit,
Stay high.
which just
Car outside.
is good for us,
Inside.
honestly. We're back up to
Still
about
inside.
7th, 8th, but as I said before, that
Still
means
there,
absolutely
inside.
nothing. Anything can and will
Stay
happen
high.
at Talladega. I'm seeing that we're only going to make it to about lap
Still there.
45,
inside.
give or
The leader
take.
is running. 48.693.
And at this point, I'm already trying to figure
You're
out,
up top, 3 wide.
do I pit? And it's entirely
Still
dependent on
there.
how many cautions we have as to whether I have to pit or not.
Still
It's
there.
usually
Still there.
about 3 to 4 cautions that I need
Still
to be able
there, still
to
there.
not pit.
Right side. 2
Unless
wide.
the caution is the
Stay
final
high.
caution, then I'm kind of screwed. But the 9's in front of me, they're
Stay high.
shaking.
There's a car on the
I
left
kind of
side. You're up top,
lost
3 wide.
control,
Inside, 2 wide.
concentration,
Inside,
whatever you
2
want to call it,
wide.
as a response, so I fall back down
Still
again.
there at the bottom.
Nothing ever happens, we're down back into like 16th place,
Clear
but
inside.
it doesn't matter because we're still with
Inside.
the pack, and that's what's important. As I said before, as
Still
long as
there
we
at
stay
bottom.
with the pack, anything that happens
Keep high.
can easily be rectified, as long as we don't,
Clear
get
inside.
hit. But I go down on the
Car
inside, that's
inside.
probably
Clear inside.
a bit mean to the 23
Car
behind me,
inside.
as I kind of just stop their momentum,
Still
but
there. Hold your line.
yeah.
Keep high. Clear. 2 wide. You're in the middle. 3 wide. Still hold. Right side. 2 wide. Clear.
So we're chasing behind the 20, and I'm feeling a bit like a broken record player at this
Still there,
point, just
bottom.
talking about how lap traffic is just constantly
Keep high.
creating chaos. Obviously the 20 is also lapped, but they are with the pack. The car up
Clear
top though
inside.
is definitely not with the pack,
Car
and
outside.
it just,
Inside.
chaos is inevitably going to happen.
Bricking on the
The
back
9 went high,
Still inside.
and just,
You're up top. 3 wide. Right side.
Yeah.
2 wide. The yellow flag is out. Bricking on the
I
back
made it
stretch.
through,
Line up
probably
to
should
the
not
mile.
have,
Bricking on
just
the back stretch. Pit road is closed
doing
right
my best
now.
Lightning
Left up,
McQueen
25
impression,
car by. The next
but
car's the
it's
leader.
just start of the many pace laps. While we pace around, we're just going to watch as the 9 just gets hit high. The 1, 2, all of them are just, it's total utter chaos, and I kind of just got lucky straight on through. We're also going to watch the 22 car, as they also just had it happen right in front of them. They kind of plowed playing into it, but they survived. So they were just another survivor in it, but we're going to catch back up to during the pace laps. I see that I have about 27 laps of
12,
fuel at lap 17, which means we're going to be lap 44, 45, give or take, is when we will run out of fuel, and we would obviously like to not run out of fuel before lap 50, so we're going to have to think this through. We do see a few cars going in. Some of that's going to be due to repairs, some of that's going to be due to fuel, because lap 17, I mean, really like lap 15, give or take, lap 15 to 30 is when you see people pitting. If they can pit during yellow flags, they're going to pit there. Else people will try holding on as long as they can. So I'm already just thinking how I have to conserve every little bit that I can.
Post car is off. Time to do your job. Green flag, green flag. Pit road's open. Okay, you're in second. The leader is running 16.806.
So when you're trying to go for fuel preservation, you really don't want to be running up at the front because you don't want that draft. Either that or you want somebody pushing you, but that's not happening right now. As you can see, the next cars are all half a second behind me. I don't quite know what's happening back there. They're all just having at it, but the 21 and I are kind of just trying to push. We know that they're all going to catch up, but we're just trying to keep the momentum going, you know?
Keep it up. Doing a really good job. Car outside. Keep low. Keep low. Stay low. You're on the bottom, 3 wide. Still there, still there. Car outside, 2 wide. Still there, hold your line. Still there. Stay low. Still there. Stay low. There is a car on the high side. Still there, hold your line. Clear outside if you want it. Outside. Stay low. Still there, hold your line. Still there, hold your line. Stay low, there is a car on the high side. You're on the bottom, 3 wide. Car outside, 2 wide. You're on the bottom, 3 wide. The next car's the leader. Still there, still there. You're back in second. Hold your line. Car outside, 2 wide. Outside is clear. The next car's the leader.
So at this point I'm starting to get another run. You see I'm full, so I think about going on the outside. I do, and for a second I start to think that the cars behind are just not going to push me at all until the 13 does actually give me a bit of a tap. And then I'm thinking, you know, I really don't want to be up front if my whole goal is to conserve fuel. Again, just don't be up front. You need to draft. But I'm not gonna let people by. I don't really want, not that anyone would even notice, but I don't really want people to put together that that's what I'm doing, so I'm kind of just going and kind of just hoping for another caution. So we skip forward 5 laps and we've got some lap traffic ahead. I don't quite know what they're gonna do ever. That 17 looked like they were gonna try to come down and hit me. I was not feeling too comfortable about that, but ended up making it through just fine, and we're just staying in the lead. Again, I would rather not be in the lead, but I also, I don't know if I really trust anyone else in the lead. I don't trust anyone besides myself to be up front, so I don't trust anyone besides myself anyway. So this race has been going pretty well for us. We see that we've got 12 laps give or take left, which would put us about lap 44, 45, which is again still not good because we've got to get to 50, but almost as if up on cue they start crashing behind us and we get a caution. So we just lift off and thank the racing gods for allowing us to possibly make it to the end without stopping. If I was smart, I would stop now, but where's the fun in that? So going through these replays, we're first is going to be looking at what happens, and then as you see, the 13 gets up, and it just is pure, and it's... You don't have anything besides chaos at this track at any form of super speedway, and I mean Gen 4, it seems to just be asking for it as well, and I love how it just cuts to me just driving away. But anyway, we're also going to be looking at the 5 car as they go through it, but they don't exactly get through it too cleanly. They kind of just get bumped here, bumped there, and it's not too much fun for them either. Lastly, we're going to be watching the 27, that white car down at the bottom. As you see, they just go through and they just get hit. And it looks like, oh, that's all going to be it. Then they just drive straight up into it. They get sideways. They get hit to flip. They flip in the air. It's just... I swear, every crash just feels like it's a scene from the first Cars movie. So I'm seeing at this point we've got 10.4 laps, which would still... I mean, I'm a broken record at this point, but... It's at this point you have to look at this every single lap. I jokingly fake towards the inside. Car behind me actually pits. Honestly, probably the better move. We'll find out how it looks for them later, but I get to the restart zone and I just floor it.
Green, green, green.
I'm hoping for anyone. At points I'm debating if it would actually have been better if I waited till the very end so that somebody could have passed me easier. But it doesn't really matter. What's done is done for starters, and secondly, I'm trying to save like 5 laps of fuel. That is kind of a crazy amount, but also you have to remember that it's not just 5 laps of fuel, you also have to prepare for it in case there's a green-white checkered. So you're really having to try to save 7 extra laps of fuel plus a bit I've already saved, so you're close to 10 laps of fuel. So it's purely based on cautions, but the 23 is coming around me, and you see I'm not going full throttle, so it's pretty easy for them. The car behind me is probably a bit confused why I'm not going full throttle. Maybe they're doing the same thing, I don't quite know. But I'm going like probably 80-90% throttle, just trying to keep it up with them. Got some more cars going around on the outside. I actually would prefer if they get in front of me, but I don't want to leave open a gap. The 23 is getting a bit swirly, so I'm not too excited about that, but the 4 staying high. It looks like the 4 is going to be getting a bit of a push by the 25, but I'm looking and it's like, I'm definitely not going to make it. If I were smart, I would pit. If I was smart, I would have pitted in the last caution. But we're just going to keep going. The 23 gets forward. I'm almost leaving a gap for the 4, but not quite enough. The 4 gets pushed by the 25, so I'm just going, just trying to keep just enough throttle to stay in the slipstream without losing too much space. The 26 behind me is kind of done with my business and is trying to get around on the outside, but that's not going to happen too much either. I just get back up with the 23. The 26 does actually get in front of me, but it's not in the same row, so it doesn't really matter, but I'm still keeping about a car's gap in front of me. Anybody could move in at any time, and I'm not putting too much danger down on them.
Stay low. Still there. You got about 5 laps of fuel left.
So we've got about 5 laps of fuel with 9 laps to go. There is no way I can make it at this point unless that 9 car causes damage, but sadly they don't. I made a joke earlier in the video about doing a Kevin LePage. That, I think the 9 car was just doing the same practice.
The gap is
says I'm
1
losing
second.
on the car in front, but I've still got the 17 in front of me, so as long as I've got somebody, it's keeping me in slipstream. I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna make it at this point. I'm really just praying, because right now would be a perfect time for a caution. That way we're before the green-white check, the extra laps from the green-white check, and we can just make it. But alas.
5 to go. It's going well, keep at it. Car outside. Stay low, there is a car on the high side. You have about 1 lap of fuel left. Clear outside.
See, as you saw, I added like just 1 bit of fuel. I go up on the inside here on the 15. I genuinely don't know why. As soon as I did it, I'm like, why? I'm just losing momentum. But it doesn't matter. I tuck behind the 15. I have to pit this lap. There's just no other option. So I just go down on the inside, and I'm just like, okay, well, let's hope this works. My tires are smoking. I turn it and somehow just get it in. That should not have worked. So now that I can add another McQueen impression to this video, now that I'm just doing a gas and go 4 seconds of fuel, crossing the line, it's going to be lap 47. I've added 4 laps of fuel. We just have to hope for the best, but first off I wanted to check my tires to see how they're doing. You can see they're all okay durability, but look at those temperatures. The front right one at 260 on the insides, most of the temperatures at 240. Absolutely cooked, but there are 4 laps of fuel with 4 laps to go, but I don't have any draft anything, so I'm looking, see how people are behind me, and there's plenty of a gap that I should be fine, but it's still nothing that I'd be too excited to save over. I can still easily fall should somebody get up to me. I'm holding full throttle because I'm trying to get up to speed. I am trying to get up to be in contention with people, but it's not going to be easy when I have to think about fuel, think about the fact that I probably should have just done another tick of fuel. Would have reduced risk, but this entire race has been about risk. I've got 3 laps of fuel as I cross the line, so I'm thinking I should be fine, but I still don't want to...
2 laps to go, 2 to go.
Don't want to worry too much. I saw 2 laps to go, and for a second I was like, oh, do I only have 2 laps? And then I realized that was the leaders. The leaders are less than 10 seconds behind me. They are catching up quick, but I am catching up on this lap. Car 9th place, about a second in front of me. I'm hoping that they're going to be faster, but no, they're probably just damaged because they just let me on by. But the cars behind me are less than 9 seconds, and I hear that 7th place is with them. I'm going to be crossing the line with less than 2 laps of fuel to go. See, 2 laps of fuel right there. Which is not good for me because there's still another portion of the track. So I'm already trying to lift and coast a bit. I see that there's 7 seconds. I know that as long as I keep going kind of okay, I should be fine. They shouldn't catch up to me. But it's still a worry. I know that they've also got that car in P9 there that will hold them up a tiny bit when they get etch up, even if it's just a 10th. That could matter. But I see that I've got just about 1.5 laps of fuel, which is still not going to be good enough for me. I see they're now 5 seconds behind me, and I'm just praying, hoping. 1 lap of fuel to go at the pit entrance, which is not going to be enough. You see, I am at like 70% throttle, 70-80% throttle. I am just... I don't know what to do. They have 3.5 seconds. I don't want to fall down a lap. Not that that's going to be bad. But if they all pass me, if the leaders pass me, the car in P7 is probably going to pass me, making them P6 and me P7. And honestly, I think it'd just be funnier if I stayed on the lead lap. So I've got myself at the top of my relative. I am just trying to find the rest of them. And I still see that lap car in front of me. The 2 seconds it's closing, they're not going to be able to give me any draft really by just a tiny bit. They're just going up and down the track, not really doing anybody any favors. But I see that I have zero amps of fuel. That's when I realize that the cars behind me had already crossed the
You're out of
line,
gas.
and I may be out of gas, but I finished on the lead lap. That was an absolutely absurd race. So the 21 car that pit won lap 34 when I kind of jokingly went in, they ended up finishing not too well. I'm gonna see what happened to them. They just... oh. Okay. They just... okay.